Welcome to the Melissa Banks Show. I'm your host, Melissa Banks, and I'm excited for today. I'm thankful that you're here with us. This show is all about celebrating the journeys of authors, entrepreneurs, creatives, people who are boldly chasing their dreams, creating meaningful products and services, and inspiring others to do the same. Each episode will uncover the stories behind the successes, the lessons learned from the challenges, and the advice that can spark action in your own life. My goal is simple. It's to remind you that your dreams are possible and to leave you feeling inspired and empowered. Let's get started with today's show. Our guest today is author entrepreneur LaKeasha Williams, who has an incredible story to share with us today. Welcome to the show, LaKeasha.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
I'm excited that you're here. I'm excited for all of us to hear all about your journey and how you've been able to keep going and create different milestones along the way. So on this show, we'd like to start at the beginning. What sparked your journey and how have you been able to turn what was a dream into the reality that you're living today?
Uh, what sparked my journey? If I have to take it all the way back to being a child growing up in a marginalized community and seeing just the how it devastated my neighborhood, but my parents knew that something else was better out there for their children. They didn't know exactly what, but they planted the seed of hope in us and for us to know that we were better than those circumstances. And so I must say that is what sparked the light in me, so to speak, or the flame, right, for me to just have hope for myself and my future.
That's awesome. Okay, and your journey led you to an author journey. Let's talk about the author journey. What made you want to be an author, or was that always there as well?
So I must say that as a natural born academia person, so I was, a nerd as a kid, right? I loved reading books and I always had a dream of becoming an author. And in my 20s, I actually started writing a book. It was supposed to be about my life. I never got a chance to finish that book, but it's coming, right? That's coming too. But what led me to my first author experience was being a principal and thinking outside of the box and pouring into the children in my school community who was what? We were in a marginalized community. And so everything that I felt was poured into me as a child, I poured into my school children. And someone noticed that and he reached out to me and asked me to be a part of his anthology project. It was during the COVID-19 pandemic. He wanted everybody to just share some like uplifting stories about our journeys and how we were persevering through that time period. So that was actually my first author experience, and still I thrive with Amazon bestseller status as well. My first solo experience as an author was writing my first children's book, Shine on Brown Girl. And what inspired that, or what led me to that journey, was it was during the election of Kamala and Biden and the world, well, Black and brown women. We were so excited about that. And there was a poem that I came across on, let me not just say Black and brown women. There were many women who were excited about that. And I came across a poem on social media titled Brown Girl, Brown Girl. I took that poem to my school, recited it with the black and brown little girls who were in my school because, again, everyone was caught up in the excitement of that historic election and feeling that we have representation in the White House. Well, that video went viral, and it went viral for two reasons. One, the first reason is that there were people who were totally disgusted with me. They felt that I was indoctrinating children. They compared me to Hitler, and I even received death threats as a result of that. And so you can only imagine how I was feeling during that time. But on the flip side of it, the story was also growing because it resonated with millions of people around the world to see a group of Black and brown children just being excited about who they were, because the poem was all about empowerment and affirmations and loving yourself. And so they wrote about us in a paper in India. An Italian news station reached out to me, WPix 11, ABC 7, and countless local media reached out to me because they wanted to know what were we doing in this Title I high poverty school where the children were happy. So
Mhm.
what were we doing? But that experience, right, led me to believe that I needed to do more. And that led me to write my book, Shine On Brown Girl, because my school was known as Shine 399.
That's how I first met you, actually, is I saw Shine On Brown Girl and I started reading about it. And when we talked before, we talked a lot in detail about that because I just love the concept of
Yes.
Shine On Brown Girl. That was wonderful. LaKeisha, I talk about defining moments in my journey. And I shared this earlier. When I first identified a moment that I felt changed something within me, it made me believe in myself more because of something that happened. And I refer to that as my defining moment. But what I discovered, it's not just one defining
Right.
moment on the journey. I have several moments that changed something in me that I refer to as defining moments. Talk to us about some along the way. Is that one journey, something in your journey that was that moment you can say, this is a defining moment and this changed who I am or had some type of perspective on you and how you on your life?
It's ironic that you're asking me that question today, because I was just reflecting on that. And in my 50 years, recently celebrated a birthday, in my 50 years, it's as you stated, right? It's not just one moment, right? It's several moments across my years. Um, but I must say that, and I do believe in God, right? And I say, God, please, like, no more heartbreaks, right? But I have to say that it is those moments when I am deep in the valley, if you will. It's those moments where I'm deep in the valley where I rely, like I have no other choice but to rely on God to pull me through. And in those moments, that's where I find those to be my most defining moment, right? It always comes as a result of some sort of traumatic experience, right? And I'll say again, real quickly, just back to my childhood, right? Maybe that was setting me up for, you know, the future, where we know that life is always lifing. Because even though as a child I lived next door to a crack house, my parents would not allow that to define who we were. So as a woman going through a divorce, which was a traumatic experience, I was not going to allow that moment to define who I was. And so in that moment, I had to do what needed to be done, enroll my children in college courses, well, the children's program on the college campus, which allowed me to finish up with my degrees. Right. So when I went to school, my children went to school as well. So again, that was a traumatic experience where I was deep down in the valley, but I did not allow that the trauma to define me. It was relying on God, and persevering through that so that I could, come out better than ever before. Let's fast forward that all the way to me making the gut wrenching decision to walk away from my school. A school that, when I inherited the school, it was a failing school, right? Ranked 29 out of 32 schools in the district. But because I chose to lead with love and I poured into my community, the children, the staff, the families, as well as the extended community, By the time I left that school, we were number one in the district for math gains, number two in the district across elementary schools for ELA gains. My cohort grade was top 10 in the district for ELA performance, top seven in the district for math performance. And any way that a school could be evaluated, we were off the charts, right? So I experienced all of that success, but due to another traumatic experience, I had to walk away from the school. And once again, I found myself deep in the valley. So when you're deep in the valley, and I just realized this honestly not too long ago, that that is the time for you to not to give in to feelings of despair or depression. I always challenge people to say, honor your emotions, right? Honor them. If you need to cry, cry. If you need to step back and focus on you, get some rest, do whatever you need to do to pour into you and recharge, do that. But don't unpack and live in despair, right? Because that doesn't do us any well. But it was once again another traumatic experience where I then had to go through, the valley again and lean onto God and do what needed to be done. And here I am today, right, with my newest project, my Leadership Unlimited magazine and my Let It Go devotional series, which is ultimately going to be a leadership masterclass as well.
We're going to talk more about that, but I don't want to miss some of the powerful moments that you just shared, because I don't want the audience to miss it either. What you shared was you were in the valley. There were things coming at you that could have taken you out, but you
Yes.
pushed through those things to get to the next thing. I think I heard you say on an interview recently, your life wasn't over, but the assignment in that place was over. And I
Yes.
could see you moving through each one of those challenges. And I'm so thankful that you shared that it wasn't one challenge. It was, I pushed through this challenge, and then another challenge, and then another challenge, that all are part of the journey. And that's
Yes.
the biggest thing that we have to realize, is that though it feels like the end when we're in it, it don't feel good when you're in it.
It
Sometimes
does
you're on
not
the
feel
float,
good.
it's over. It does
It
not
does
feel good.
not feel good at all.
But look at when you don't let it take you out. When you
Mhm.
pull onto your faith and push through that. And that's what I heard. I heard the journey, each step that thought it was going to take you out, but you didn't let it take you out. You pushed it to get to the greater good. And now here you are, all about leadership, sitting up here, absolutely fabulous. And I should have led with this happy birthday, because I've been watching the celebration and I have enjoyed every moment. You would think I was there. So thank you for sharing that experience with all of us. So let's
Yeah.
talk about the journey and where you are now. But before you begin, let me just reset for a moment. And if you're just joining us, this is the Melissa Banks Show. Welcome to the show. Our guest today is LaKeasha Williams. Okay, LaKeasha, let's talk about this new phase you're in right now. Tell us about the leadership journey, and why did you take it in that direction, and what is it that we have to look forward to in that area?
Again, when I think about my leadership journey, it's so powerful, right? When you have the ability to look back and reflect, right? But obviously, in that moment, I didn't necessarily know what it was, or I could identify. But even when I began my career as a teacher, right, I've always been a leader. And this is why now I always stress that leadership is not about a title. It's really not about a title or how many degrees you have, etc. Right? But it is about you developing you to be the best version of yourself and your impact on others. That is what defines effective leadership, in my opinion. So, throughout my childhood, being the oldest child, grandchild, niece on both sides, I've always been in leadership roles. And now we take it to education and starting that journey. There was a principal who saw something in me as a new teacher, and she actually encouraged me to pursue administration, because once again, she saw how I interacted with the students, with the other teachers, with the families. And so she knew. And even though I was, in my 20s at the time, I had no I did not enter into education thinking about leadership. I entered into education saying, I want to teach. And teaching is a noble profession. And even at this level, I'm still teaching. It's just that in the teaching profession, right, there calls for a certain level of leadership that my principal at the time saw in me and encouraged me to take that journey. And so I did, embark on that journey and assume principalship. And again, even being a principal, I had no idea. And I became a principal after a divorce, right? A really hectic divorce. Talking about that was another traumatic experience because that was a time in my life where that was what I felt my second opportunity to do family the right way. And again, in my 30s, that's how I was thinking, right? I want to do family the right way because I hadn't remained with my children's father and raised, my sons in the home with their father. Their father is involved in their lives, but we did not remain together. And so for a long time, my thought was, I want, to do family the right way again. Well, anyway, that did not happen in that way. There's a reason why I'm bringing this up, right? So I definitely went through a traumatic experience of losing four babies, four babies, trying to have this second family. And it was only through the grace of God and therapy and yes, the divorce where I realized, you know what? You did family the right way because you raised two amazing human beings to be loving, kind, supportive of others and to be the best versions of themselves. And they love you back, right? Your sons love you back. So you did family the right way. But it was after that traumatic experience where the principalship opportunity came to me. So even when we take that situation, I could have definitely lost my mind and lost everything after losing four babies and exalted God, right? Which I was angry with him for a while. But what I realized is that your blessings will come. They're not going to always come in the manner in which you think they should come, but they will come. Because as a principal, guess what? I was blessed to take care, to nurture and pour love into it, take care and make sure they were the best that they could be, hundreds of more children. And then during that time period, I became a grandmother. So look at me again, right? I said, look at God. He's still blessing me. He is still blessing me. And so those are the pivotal points in my life. So when I think about leadership, again, has nothing to do with a title, but it has to do with you continuing to grow and be the best version of yourself. And regardless of what traumatic experience you may be going through, you're still being positive towards others and impacting others in a profound manner. And so again, I spoke before about doing everything as a principal and then leaving the school. And here I go again. I'm in the valley and it's like, what's next? And for a while there, I really did not know what was next. But here's what I do believe without a doubt. All living things must grow. That's the definition of a living thing. If you notice anything, even the plants, once they stop growing, they die. So I know that as human beings, we are designed for that. And when I think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we know that at the beginning level is food, is shelter, is clothing. Those basic needs need to be met. But at the top of that pyramid, and as you go through that pyramid, the top is self-actualization. And to me, that simply means you being the best version of yourself. And I believe that is a lifelong process. And I believe that is what true leadership development is about. It is about the evolution of you self-actualizing to be the best versions of yourself that God has destined you to be.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I love all of that. Thank you so much for that because that helped so many people. Now, LaKeisha, I have to ask you, I don't want us to wrap up without this question. You know, there are so many people watching that has that dream, has that idea, want to write a book, but they haven't moved on, but they've been talking about it. They haven't moved to that next level. God's been telling them to move. They know it's time to move, but they just haven't moved. starting can be the hardest part of the journey. So what advice do you have for someone who's listening that haven't been able to start? What advice would you have for them?
Let it go. That is the advice that I have for anyone. Let it go. So everything that I shared with you, I was able to channel that into this 30-day devotional, right? Which is also a journal, which is the groundwork or the framework for my Let It Go Leadership Masterclass. So first you want to make sure that you pick up this book, Let It Go, because whatever is in you is meant to come out. That is your gift. And if you find yourself at a standstill, there is a blockage, and we can work together to let it go. This is everything that I share with you wrapped up into this book. And so, again, when I think about leadership development, that is the next calling for me. That is the next level. How do I impact as many people as possible so that they can be the best versions of themselves? Because, yes, as an executive leadership strategist, I could go into schools, I could go into a variety of business entities and help them with systems and structures and team building, professional development, etc. Right? Because I have skill sets there. But ultimately, I believe leadership development is about you. It is about you developing you. And we can first start by letting it go, because that's where many of us get stuck, and we don't, unfortunately, get to that the to get to be the best versions of ourselves, because we get stuck in that valley that I shared with you throughout this episode. So let's not get stuck. Let's learn together how we can let it go.
Wow, love it. Y'all heard her right here. Let it go. LaKeasha, this has been an amazing conversation. I feel inspired. I feel fired up and ready to move to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Thank you for just being open and sharing your journey so much with us. Let our audience know what they can look forward to next from you and how they can stay connected and support you.
Yes, please. So I want you to pick up my Leadership Unlimited magazine. This is the inaugural edition, which was developed to commemorate my 50th birthday, but also my journey. My journey is here. Leadership tips is here. Um, just different things. This is all about LaKeasha, but this is also the beginning of my next phase and helping develop other leaders as well, empowering change one leader at a time. And coupled with that is the Let It Go devotional, which is a journal. So there's an ebook version of it, paperback, as well as the journal. And this is the framework for my leadership masterclass, which is coming at the end of August. So you want to make sure that you follow me on my Instagram at coach underscore shine on LaKeasha. You can also visit my website, because there will be a wait list to sign up for the masterclass, www.brickhouseunlimited, one word.com. And I just look so forward to continuing this journey with as many of you as I possibly can.
Well, thank you again for being here. Thank you for your openness and sharing your story. Congratulations on all your success, and continue. You have a few more days in this month, so you can keep celebrating turning 50. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you to our audience for joining us for the Melissa Banks Show. I hope today's conversation with LaKeasha Williams reminded you that your dreams are within reach, no matter where you're starting. Remember, your journey is unique, your dreams are valid, and you have the power to design the life that you love. So keep believing, keep growing, and keep shining. Until next time, I'm your host, Melissa Banks.